Thank you, Josephine. And on behalf of the Patterson Foundation, love to welcome all of you to the start and kickoff of Margin and Mission Ignition 2021. We're delighted to have all of you here today. And this is special because despite the fact this is MMI 6.0, yes, we've been doing this since 2015. You are a special group because this is our first MMI Lab series, or I should say Labinar series, that we're doing virtually. So you're making a bit of history today, and we're delighted that you've all carved time out of your busy schedules to join us. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me for just one moment and jump into our slide deck and just introduce the topic for today. We obviously are big fans of earned income and social enterprise, and today is really the kickoff to share with all of you the introductory learning lab. So this is appropriately titled Nonprofit is a Tax Status, Not a Business Model. And we will dive in, tell you more about what that means, and most importantly, why each of you and your organizations and your teams should care about earned income. Hopefully you have a beverage close by, coffee. Larry Clark, I'm sure you've got your coffee close by. I've got my Diet Coke close by, tea, water, whatever it is, but please stay hydrated during today's session. As I said, today is special for a few reasons, not the least of which is you will all have the opportunity to, I guess, what we call unleash your entrepreneurial spirit and thinking. And this will serve as the first of what will be 4 sessions that we encourage you to do that. We've got a few goals for our session today. The first being, just make sure everybody's grounded in, understands the importance of revenue diversification or diversified revenue, something that is absolutely critical from our perspectives to having a healthy and thriving organization. Secondly, this will be an opportunity for you to learn how or reinforce how earned income can contribute to your organization's thrivability. And then thirdly, and importantly, we want to make sure that as we share thoughts, ideas, insights, and even tools, that you have the opportunity to apply those to your own organization. So we'll learn, we'll share, we'll think, we'll apply, and those are all good things. Our agenda is action-packed. For those of you who have been with us in the past, you know that we like to cover a lot, and today is certainly no exception. So we have you until 11:30 this morning. We'll just do a little bit of introducing in a moment, set a little context, and then we'll dive right into the topic at hand, which will focus on diversified revenue, what that means, and we'll get into earned income with a number of components that we'll share. Examples, talk about your own opportunities and possibilities, how to assess them, and think about, which ones make sense for your organization. Thinking about competitors, partners, who could fund a startup or help you expand an existing one. And ultimately, are you positioned for success in an earned income venture? And then, importantly, we'll wrap with some next steps and some Q&A. So that's our agenda. We do love our social media here at the Patterson Foundation. Again, those of you who have been with us for other events and initiatives know that. So if you are inclined to share any nuggets of learning, any insights, or any aha moments on social media, please feel free to do so. Our Twitter handles @the Patterson Foundation and @margin_mission, We've got a couple of hashtags, TPF margin mission and earned income. And then, of course, if you would be so kind to like us on our social media pages, Facebook and so forth, we'll be happy to like you back. So I'm going to turn it over to one of my colleagues, Michael Zimmerman, a fellow at the Patterson Foundation, and he's just going to walk us through briefly our Zoom housekeeping rules. Michael, are you there?
Yes. Thank you, Michael Oxman. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So a couple housekeeping items to keep in mind. So we're going to ask that everyone remain muted as we continue through our Labinar. And would you please take a moment to rename yourself with your first name and your organization? This way we can see who's here and from where you've come. And feel free to share comments and questions with us. We have a chat box feature on our Zoom this morning, so we'll have a moment to answer any questions or engage in conversation around some of your comments. And yeah, we'll have a Q&A as time permits, and we look forward to continuing forward. And thank you so much for being here. Michael Oxman, back to you.
Thank you, Michael Z. So we've got one other housekeeping item, very important. Again, for those of you who know us, you know we like our Zoom photos. And to help us get a nice Zoom photo this morning, Josephine Eisenberg is going to snap the pictures. I'm going to take us off of screen share. So please feel free to take yourself off of, let's see. Josephine, are you there?
I am, I'm here.
Okay. Good.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Give me 1 second. Sorry about this. So I'm going to give you a prompt. So again, if you don't have your camera on, we'd love for you to turn it on, but certainly understand if you're not able to this morning. I'm just going to give you a prompt to smile and hold. I'm going to take 2 photos. This might be one of my favorite parts, because it forces everyone to have a big smile. So that's always nice to see others smiling. So here we go. Big smile and hold. And relax. I'm going to do it one more time. And again, smile and hold. All right. Let me make sure I got everyone. Okay, good. We're ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Josephine. So what's a Labinar? And I'm going to introduce another one of my TPF colleagues, Connor LaGrange. He is our resident TPF walking glossary. So Connor, if you wouldn't mind just sharing, I'd appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you, Mike. Again, my name's Connor LaGrange, and apparently I'm walking glossary guy, which if you are in the pool for worst superhero name of all time, I think I might win with walking glossary guy. But at TPF, we love to make up our own words when we feel that words don't quite fit what we're trying to express. So a Labinar combines the engagement and the interactivity of an in-person learning lab that we may have had pre-pandemic with kind of the virtual aspect of a webinar. So per TPF, we smush those 2 words together and roll with a Labinar. So today, you're experiencing what we at TPF would describe as a Labinar, and we hope you enjoy. So Mike, I'll turn it back over to you, and at some point find a terrible superhero name for you as well.
Thank you. I look forward to that. We do have a few Labinar must-dos. First of which is, this is a great opportunity for all of us to just open our minds and explore possibilities. This is intended to be a creative session with some opportunities for your own team to do brainstorming. You'll be able to continue that after the Labinar as well today. We want you to learn something new. We also want you to reinforce some things that you already know. And then most importantly, we'd like you to have some fun. So that'll apply to all of our future Labinars. By way of introductions, I again just want to give special thanks to the Patterson Foundation for supporting this initiative, again, since 2015. It has been ongoing, all in the interest of helping nonprofits be more thrivable. So I don't believe Deborah Jacobs is here with us today, but she is such a supporter of this initiative and has been from the beginning. Michael Corley is here with us today from the Patterson Foundation. He's a senior consultant for administration. So we have yet another Michael with us today. Connor LaGrange, who you just met, is, I believe, fellow number 4, the 4th fellow who has joined us, and hails from the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University. Michael Z, who you also met, is fellow number 5, the 5th fellow at the Patterson Foundation, who also has come to us from the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University by way of Brooklyn, New York. And then, of course, last but not least, Josephine Eisenberg. Many of you know Josephine, and without her guidance, assistance, and support for this initiative, we would certainly not be where we are today. So Josephine, thank you, and the rest of our team for joining us. Many of you likely know the Patterson Foundation because they do so much work in our region on the Sun Coast to strengthen the efforts of people and organizations and communities. And they do that by focusing on issues that address mutual aspirations, that foster wide participation, and encourage learning and sharing. MMI is just one of those initiatives. Many of you have been beneficiaries of the Giving Challenge. You're aware of the Suncoast campaign for grade level reading, digital access for all, Patriot Plaza, and the list goes on. By way of other introductions, I'm Michael Oxman, yet another one of the Michaels, managing partner and principal at No Margin, No Mission. I will tell you more about that in just a moment. And if I could also introduce my partner in crime and have him say hello, Larry Clark, the other managing partner and principal.
Good morning, everybody. Larry Clark here. I'm in the greater Seattle area. And welcome everyone. And I'll get a chance to speak in just a minute.
Okay. So No Margin, No Mission. Again, for those of you who don't know us, we are a national consulting practice that has partnered with the Patterson Foundation for the past 8+ years. And we have a unique focus, which is to help nonprofit organizations become stronger and more thrivable through earned income and social enterprise. That's all we do. That's our area of focus. We don't do board development. We don't do strategic planning. We don't do fund development. Instead, we help organizations work on ways to boost their revenue and increase their mission impact through earned income and social enterprise. I'm happy to say, as you can see from our logo on the left, that we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary. So enough about that. So I'd like to just dive into the topic at hand today. What exactly is margin and mission ignition? Or again, as you will hear us refer to it, MMI. It is first and foremost a unique opportunity and a really wonderful gift from the Patterson Foundation to each of you and your nonprofit organization. But it's an initiative, it's an earned income initiative. And essentially, it provides all of us with some time and some space to help learn about, explore possibilities to launch or grow an entrepreneurial venture. And ultimately, it's focused on boosting your organization's entrepreneurial capacity, your revenue, and your mission impact. And when we talk about entrepreneurial capacity, we talk about those things that happen in an organization as a result of having a business venture or a business enterprise. So again, it's a real luxury to be able to come together, have some time to do this, to talk about this, and to focus on it. So the way that MMI will work is, as you know, we will have 4 90-minute Labinars, and each is designed to address a specific topic. So today's is really more a launch and a kickoff Labinar, a primer, if you will. Our second Labinar will be focused on exploring possibilities for earned income. Our third Labinar will be about preparedness for an earned income venture. Are you as an organization prepared to succeed? And then the last one will focus on business planning. There is also a second component of MMI, and that will include what we're calling two mini virtual consulting sessions with no margin, no mission. They're short, they're about 30 minutes, but they give us an opportunity to connect with all of you after Labinar 1 and Labinar number 3, just to have an opportunity to talk a bit, to discuss the homework that you'll have in between these Labinars, answer some questions, and hopefully take some action. So again, while these Labinars are really more an opportunity for us to share information with you, those mini Zoom consulting sessions will be our opportunity to be with you one-to-one. Plus, as many of you know, with the Patterson Foundation and their initiatives, there's frequently the opportunity for more, and this initiative is no exception. So for those who fully participate in the Labinar series, in the 4 labs, we will have a process that will allow you to be considered for advancement to the next phase of this initiative, which is more intensive and would include helping you to develop a business plan for your earned income venture, helping you to implement your business plan, and then also providing some support after that's done for what we call post-implementation tracking and monitoring. So again, the gift to all of you is these 4 Labinars. And for those of you who want to delve deeper, have the interest and the wherewithal, and I guess would also have the preparedness for it, you'll have the opportunity to participate. So with that, I'm going to ask Josephine to introduce our first poll question.
Hello. Here we go. The first poll question is, Girl Scout cookies are a well-known social enterprise. What's your fave? So just feel free to choose one of those listed. You have the Caramel Delights, Peanut Butter Patties, S'mores, Do-si-dos, shortbread, or Thin Mints. Not that I want to persuade anyone to choose one, but peanut butter patties are definitely. And then I'm thinking, it's time to buy some Girl Scout cookies again, right? It's been a while. All right, give you a couple more seconds to make your choice. I think everybody has. We'll end and share. And look at that. It's the Thin Mints, win by a slight margin.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you picked the Thin Mints. Those are definitely my favorite. But trailing at a close second are the Caramel Delights or the Samoas. And then we've got a few that are more distant with Josephine's favorite, the peanut butter patties, the shortbreads, and the Do-si-dos. We didn't get any for s'mores. That's interesting.
And Mike, I just want to jump in. Somebody put in the chat, they've never had Girl Scout cookies.
Oh.
So, a few people maybe have never had them. So I think it's time that we encourage folks to get them.
We've made a mental note of that. So yeah. This is a great intro question though, and Larry's going to provide a little more context, but one of the all-time greatest earned income ventures and social enterprises, Girl Scout cookies, been around for many, many, many years, decades, and of course has helped the Girl Scouts generate an infinite amount of earned revenue to help them boost their mission impact. So thank you all for responding to this first Zoom poll, and I'm going to turn it over to Larry.
Good morning, everyone. Let's take a step back and think about some context. for earned income. And we have a really good friend in Seattle. You might know Melinda Gates. She once said, helping people doesn't have to be an unsound financial strategy. And we truly believe that. So one of the greatest philanthropists on the planet at this point in time really believes that probably business planning and a good financial strategy is important for any nonprofit to have. So let's think about kind of 3 words right now. Surviving. So you've survived over the past couple of years. You hopefully moved into a sustain mode. So sustaining is just kind of keeping the doors open and keeping some dollars coming in, but not necessarily growing. We're all about thriving. And thrive is the word that we are really focused on, because we want you not just to survive and sustain, we want you to grow and build and impact more individuals or whatever your mission might be in our world. So let's look at another glossary term, and I'm going to turn it back over to I can't remember what the superhero name was, but Connor.
Yes, I believe it was Walking Glossary Man, coming to a theater near you with no one in it. So please go to the box office. I get 10%. Thrivability is another word that we came up with here at TPF, given that we felt that, as the previous slide said, sometimes we're sustaining ourselves, sometimes we're simply surviving. But we at the Patterson Foundation, in our effort to strengthen people, organizations, and communities, truly want to see the individuals around us and around the Suncoast region thrive. And so we created this term of thrivability, which is a state of being that your organization can achieve when you intentionally strengthen the economic muscle of your organization and the mission muscle. Good grief. That's apparently I need a superhero course in speaking today. But when we combine this economic and this mission aspect of your work, that's when we believe that your organization can finally enter into a spot and be considered in the thrivability state.
Thanks, Connor. I've heard Connor define thrivability a few times. It's getting better, right? I mean, it's like, you're on. Let's move on. So it's not business as usual, and it hasn't been for a number of years, but in today's environment, especially, and consider how your organization can become more thrivable as you think about today and in the future. So we like to think about it as diverse revenue streams in nonprofits. If you don't have them, you're vulnerable. So imagine an organization's at risk if you have 30% or more of your funding coming from a single source. Think about it. So even if your retirement portfolio, if you have one, would you put 30% of your retirement in one stock? Probably not. So think about it that way, that how do you diversify your revenue without having more than 30% coming from a single source? So our definition of diverse revenue is having multiple forms of income that without relying on any one single source for your financial livelihood. It means to reduce your financial risk. If one of those revenue streams goes away, you can still keep your doors open. You can still hopefully be thrivable. So let's check in with you to see how your organization's revenue stream is. Josephine.
Yep, here we go. And the next poll question, as you saw, is does your organization have more than 30% of its revenue coming from a single source? There's an absolutely yes, positively not. I'm not so sure. Good question. I'll look into it. These are anonymous, not that it really matters, but just feel safe to answer honestly. This is a safe space with the Patterson Foundation. All right, I'll give you a couple more seconds. Not everybody has answered. And here we go. What do you think, Larry?
Well, I'm so glad, and I'm sure Mike is and the rest of the Patterson Foundation team, that you're here today, because a lot of you are in the absolutely yes. So hopefully throughout this Labinar series, you'll figure out a way to diversify that. And a lot of you don't know. So it'll be a good question that you can go back and ask today to whoever does your financials. And 6 of you said absolutely not. So you're diversified. Good for you. Thanks, Josephine. I have to get rid of my poll question here. So how do nonprofits financially support themselves? Anybody have any idea? How do you support yourself financially? So type in the chat box or raise your virtual hand if you want to share. Anybody? How do you financially support yourselves? Elizabeth said through grants. Anybody else?
If you're raising your hand and we don't call on you, just unmute and jump in real quick because we can't see everyone on the screen.
So we see private donations, donors, membership dues, ticket sales, private donations, events, others. A lot of duplicates, which Cheryl says ditto to all the above. Earned income, Jonathan said earned income. We'll hear more about that in just a few minutes. And diversified funding, but government grants are more than 30%. Okay, so a wide range of ways that you diversify or nonprofits diversify their revenue. Thank you. So revenue forms that nonprofits usually have are grants through philanthropy or government, and somebody just mentioned a government grant that they have, donations, individual or corporate. You do fundraisers, and it looks like at least one of you has earned income. So that's great. So these are different revenue forms that are out there. So where does your revenue currently come from? So we're not going to have that conversation right now, but you'll get a worksheet and we'll walk through that worksheet with you. And Mike, I'll have you turn the slide. So this will be the worksheet. So where does your current revenue come from? List your sources and how much is coming from charitable giving, how much is coming from fundraising. Do you have any earned income sources? We'd love to know kind of what your current is and what you hope it to be in the future. So that'll be a worksheet that you receive tomorrow. Let's do a poll question. Josephine.
Of course, here we go. Approximately how much of your organization's total revenue comes from grants and donations? So feel free to make your choice. More than 75%, 50 to 75, and on down until less than 10%. You guys are quick with this one.
You are.
Yeah, good job. I'll let you have a few more seconds. Last chance, and here we go. Looks like more than 75%, Larry.
All right. I think Mike and I are interested in the 10% and below group. Kind of where does your money come from? But we'll get into that later. Thank you for doing that. And more than 75% of you get it from grants and donations. So let's dive in and talk about how you can diversify your income in the future and kind of what needs to change. And we'll focus on one topic, earned income. And throughout the whole Labinar series, that's what our topic will be, is earned income and how you can diversify that. So what is it? Let me read this. Payments that provide a stream of unrestricted revenue to an organization generated through activities both related and unrelated to mission. So Mike and I have worked with 100+ organizations, and we really try to focus that organization on a mission-related earned income activity. But this is the big definition of what earned income means. So why don't we talk about this for a second? Mike, if you want to open it up.
Hey.
So maybe let me just ask a question. How many of you have purchased something from a nonprofit that has an earned income stream? Somebody want to raise their virtual hand and just share what that was that you bought? Don't use Girl Scout cookies, an example that we gave that one away. Somebody want to raise a virtual hand? Jessica, do you want to unmute yourself?
Sure, I bought a t-shirt.
A t-shirt. Okay, good. Somebody else want to raise their hand? Jonathan.
I bought a Mother's Day gift through an
Wow.
organization that partnered with a social enterprise.
Was it a good one?
Yeah, it was good. It was a tea. I'm British. Of course it was.
Okay. Somebody else bought something from a nonprofit that's earned income. Karen, I think you want to share, but you don't know how to raise your hand. Can you unmute yourself? Do you want to sit? You're still muted, Karen.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't find my virtual hand, only
Okay.
reality. I bought a really fabulous piece of jewelry from the Oslo Theater one time.
Awesome. Awesome. So as you can see, let's do one more, Craig.
I purchased handmade pottery from a visual arts center.
Oh, wow.
Like that.
Right. Janet will be happy. All right. Well, we need to move on. I see some other hands raised, but and that's a good thing. A lot of you have purchased things from nonprofit in an earned income strategy. So awesome. Let me turn it back over.
So I'm going to jump in here, Larry.
Go.
So continuing with this earned income definition, and you'll hear us say this over and over, that an earned income venture can help a nonprofit increase their not only their entrepreneurial capacity, which we talked about the importance of that earlier, but also to boost your revenue and to expand your mission impact. And when we talk about boosting revenue, we talk about unrestricted revenue. So again, you're all accustomed, if you're receiving grants in particular, many grants do restrict the way that you can use. So the benefit of an earned income venture is that when you do generate that revenue, you can use it in ways that would help your organization perhaps to grow and to thrive. And you can decide how you use those dollars. Ultimately, earned income ventures can help you as an organization sustain your ability to do good. So again, this is the importance of an earned income venture or streams of earned income. So here's a question. Is earned income taxable? Is earned income taxable? So Josephine has a Zoom poll. Josephine?
Yes, there you go. Is earned income taxable? Yes, definitely no. It depends, and I'm not so sure. Yep, I see a clear winner of the poll. Let me give you a couple more seconds. Not everyone's answered, so feel free to jump in if you want to. And here we go. There you go, Mike.
Okay, well, for those of you who said absolutely yes, definitely no, it depends, you're all right. Those of you who said it depends, you're probably the most right. So, and for those of you who said, I'm not sure, well, we'll tell you exactly what you should think about when it comes to earned income being taxable. So there are two types of earned income ventures that fall into these categories. So there is mission related earned income, and there is non-mission related. If your earned income venture or activity is mission related, it is typically tax exempt. If it is non-mission related, so the further away it is from or not tethered to your mission, it is typically taxable. And what's interesting about these designations is that it's not always as black and white as we've made it seem here. So oftentimes, for example, there may be something that you're selling or generating revenue from that appears to be non-mission related, but as you look more closely at it and or you look for opportunities to more closely tie it to your mission, you may be able to move it out of that category. So what we typically will suggest that you do here is, after you fully understand what the earned income possibilities are, or those things you already have, to both think about them through these lenses and also consult with your tax professional, because frequently they will have a professional opinion about whether or not your earned income activities are mission related and tax exempt, or non-mission related and taxable. So something to think about. When we talk about earned income, we also talk about those things that it is not. So for example, earned income is not donations. That could be time or money or stuff, in-kind donations. And earned income is also not grants. And frequently when we ask folks to inventory those things they have in their organization that they believe are earned income, once in a while something will appear in that list that really is not an earned income activity. So a question, and you can certainly type this in the chat box, is a golf outing an earned income venture? Do you think a golf outing is an earned income venture? Or is a gala, a big fundraising event, an earned income venture? And again, depending on how you've thought about these types of activities or events in the past, you might say that they are an earned income venture. Typically, we would say they are not. They tend to be dollars that are coming in that are donation-based. If they are donation-based, they are not earned income. So something just to keep in mind, okay? Okay, so there's three types of earned income activities or ventures. They're products and services, which are the ones that you've likely either have or have heard about. There is a second type of earned income, which we call capital, and frequently that refers to facilities and investments. And then the third type is intellectual assets. And as you start to think about either what you have in your organization that could become an earned income venture, or perhaps those things that you already are selling as part of an earned income activity or venture, allow yourselves to think about them within these three categories. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. So as I said, products and services are those types of earned income activities that are just most intuitive, because those are the things that are, I guess, are most tangible. But it runs the gamut in terms of the types of products and services that nonprofits have and could sell. It ranges from trainings and workshops, educational materials, retail operations, and that has a gamut of different types of opportunity. Food service, consulting, technical assistance, membership, events, software, books, data and analysis, and the list goes on and on. The reality is that products and services, you as an organization can get creative here. You can think about those things that perhaps maybe it was a kooky idea that you had that you thought, maybe we could sell that. Well, it might not be such a kooky idea. So allow yourselves to think about, open your minds and brainstorm here. Now, let us share some examples with you of nonprofit organizations that have done some unique and different earned income ventures and activities. Okay, so this is an organization called HARC. HARC is in Hartford, Connecticut, and it's an organization that helps individuals with disabilities to essentially change their lives by becoming better at managing those things that perhaps they may have not had the opportunity to do. So this organization launched, this was one of their kooky ideas. They went through our Labinar series and had an idea to start a sock store, which you can see here is called Sock Stars. It was a brand new business, did not exist. And essentially it was socks on a mission. So let me read you the way that they communicate what Sock Stars is. Every sock you buy from Sock Stars funds, support, training, and skills development that helps persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities find and keep a job they love that pays a dignified wage. So very mission aligned, selling socks to men, women, children in a store, online and brick and mortar, to really help the organization grow its revenue and to drive its mission impact. Now, if you are interested, you can go to their website, you can check it out. It's Sockstars with a Z, sockstarsusa.com. Okay, that's one example. Another example, this is an organization called New Horizons. New Horizons is a campus that caters to individuals with rather severe disabilities, physical disabilities, and provides housing and a place for these individuals to live and to essentially be independent, or as independent as they can possibly be, with some support and help. So the idea this organization had, again, as they were going through our labs, was a transportation business, which ultimately was called Sunshine Wheels. And Sunshine Wheels, and I'm going to read you how they communicate what this business is. It provides accessible, safe, reliable, on-time transportation to people with mobility challenges to help them improve and enhance their quality of life. And as you can see in the photo in the bottom left corner, they actually have a number of vehicles that allow individuals to be picked up, dropped off at medical appointments, and to both get to them on time and be delivered back to where they live on time. And it was a business that was sorely needed in the community, because while there was transportation available, there were a lot of limitations with it. You can learn more about Sunshine Wheels at sunshinewheels.org. And I'll just note here that since they started their earned income venture about 2 years ago, they've generated $500,000 in earned revenue. And I should say, because I forgot to mention it, Sockstars, again, it was a brand new venture, and to date, 2 years in business, they've generated $400,000 in earned revenue. So again, another example. Larry, I'm going to let you share.
Let me give you a third example. This is an organization called Chris Radio, and they have a radio station where they actually read newspapers to folks that have low vision. So they have probably 30, 40 newspapers a day that they read, and you can tune in, and they have a way that you can listen to each one of those. Well, they came up with the idea of creating a mobile app where, and this is a fairly small organization, they created a mobile app where you can use global positioning or maybe through a link within an organization and stand in front of an exhibit, and your phone will tell you about what exhibit you're standing in front of, a little bit about that exhibit. So they're selling this into museums. They're selling it indoor and outdoor. So they use global positioning outdoor, and they use the QR codes and a web-based technology indoors. They just, as a fact, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, received a fairly large contract through the National Parks Department to put their Chris Access technology into a very large state park on the East Coast. So again, small organization, small staff, but they came up with a really good idea and have pulled it off. Mike?
Okay, so here's another example. This one happens to fall into the category of catering. And this is for an organization called the Chrysalis Center. They are an organization that is geared to assisting people who are homeless, who have come out of prison, and ultimately folks who are underserved, who are in need of help re-entering society, and really getting a sense for ways that they can become more thrivable in their own lives. This venture that they launched is called La Cocina, and La Cocina is it's a catering business. But it's a catering business that is very tied to the mission of this organization, which is to help train and to employ the clients of Chrysalis Center in this catering business. So ultimately, again, this idea of being very mission aligned, this earned income venture is intended to help those individuals learn new skills, to both go through a culinary training program and also to provide services both in the community, because they deliver food to individuals, to businesses and organizations, and they also have a catering facility where groups can come in for events that have catering as part of them. Luncheons, dinner meetings, and other types of events. So La Cocina, since they have started, has also generated earned revenue of about $500,000 over a two-year period, and ultimately, again, has helped to boost their mission impact. So a unique organization with a really both much needed earned income venture, and I have to say their food is delicious. Another example, the Hartford Public Library. So we've all been to our own local libraries before. This library, as part of the Labinar series, they too had an idea that said, what if we were to start a business that was geared to some digital services? And they actually went through the sort of conception of an idea called the Digital Library Lab. Now, a digital library lab, as you might think of it, might be essentially a lab that you go to that has all kinds of technology in it to help you, whether it's a computer lab or what have you. In this particular case, a digital library lab is different. So I'll read you their description of the Digital Library Lab. It's a one-stop imaging, digital archiving, and photography social enterprise that specializes in 2D and 3D artifacts for businesses, organizations, government agencies, and individuals. So imagine all of the hard copy documentation that any of those types of organizations might have that they want to digitize, so that it can be archived and utilized in ways that are much easier to access and to keep long into the future, they would go to the Digital Library Lab. And this launched, and it too has generated almost $500,000 in earned revenue since they launched about a year and a half or 2 years ago. So again, we've shared with you a number of examples, both because we want to encourage you to think about new and different ways that you could apply sort of earned income, the creative thought process and the brainstorming to your own organizations. So Larry, I'm going to let you talk about the next category of earned income.
So the next category is capital. So an asset in the wealth of property or money accumulated and used by a business or a partnership, corporation, or an individual. And I'll give you an example of capital, and it's a local example, actually. Manatee Performing Arts Center. We have worked with Manatee on a couple of different projects. So they have a very large, pretty new space up near in Bradenton, and their space, when it's not being used for their shows or for practice, remains pretty vacant. So they created a rental venue business where they actually rent the space out during the downtime to parties and events, and a lot of corporate partners have come in to utilize our space. As you can imagine, over the past year and a half, the business has not actually generated a lot of revenue. Prior to that, they were generating a lot of revenue. So things are just picking back up again as people are having more in-person events. So they figured out a good business to actually rent their space during the off time.
Larry, can you comment on this just in terms of how it's aligned with their mission? Because I know somebody had noted in the chat box, what do you mean by mission aligned?
Right. So I don't have their mission in front of me, but it's really to educate or culturally educate those in the greater community. It's something, I don't have it in front of me right now, Mike, so I can't read it. But so they believe that by just bringing folks in to their site, by seeing their site, and they always take a few minutes at the beginning of each rental that they have to talk about their organization, to share kind of what they do. And actually, Janine has shared that they have gotten additional members by doing that and increase their revenue base on the membership side. So they're exposing people in the community to additional thoughts or additional I guess, exposure to their own organization. There are some rentals, however, that are probably not mission aligned. If you rented out a space to a for-profit organization and they have an office in that space, it's probably not mission aligned, and you would probably pay taxes on that. And that's okay to do. That's okay to have that type of earned income. And we'll get into that a bit more later. So the third is intellectual assets. So the skills or knowledge or the expertise of your staff that you can use as a nonprofit. So an example is an organization that we worked with called Recenter, Race and Equity in Education. They do a lot of trainings. It's a group that we worked with in Hartford and are still working with, actually. And they were getting calls just about every week to say, you know, especially over the past 2 years, that we need some help in race and equity inclusion in our organizations, whether they be for-profit or nonprofit. And they're about creating race and equity and education in the community. So they have developed a whole consulting business. They've generated probably over $200,000 in revenue this year. A lot of staff are working on this at this point in time. And as you can imagine, it's not just about making the money and they have a net revenue, but it's about what mission impact they're making in the community because they're providing the training, the consulting. So you have to look at both sides of it, kind of the mission impact and also the revenue that's being generated out of it. So that's recenter. So let's do another poll. Josephine.
Here we go. Thinking about your organization's overall revenue pie, approximately how much currently comes from earned income activities? More than 75%, 50 to 75%, 25 to 49, 10 to 24, or less than 10. So how much of your organization's overall revenue comes from earned income activities? You guys are clicking quickly on this one as well. I'll give
Okay.
you a chance for a few more. And here we go.
Well, they are pretty spread out. I mean, a number of you are less than 10%, but above that, pretty spread out. A couple of you, 5 of you have more than 75% coming from earned income. That's awesome. And it kind of is, like I said, spread out. So thank you for taking that poll. It gives us a good idea of those that are on our session today and kind of where you're sitting in the earned income world. Mike.
Okay, so let's continue this discussion about earned income possibilities, in particular as it relates to your organization. So this is where it gets fun, because you will all have the opportunity after our Labinar today to inventory everything you have in your organization currently that could or perhaps is an earned income activity. Programs, products, services, those things perhaps that you know that they exist in the organization, that you do them, probably do them well. Hopefully they're mission aligned, but they don't necessarily have to be. And this is your opportunity to inventory them, to write them down, and to really look at them to see what you have. So it might even be things that you're just giving away for free, or maybe you're selling them at a low cost, or a combination of the two. And that's okay. Those are good starting points for potential earned income activities or ventures. Or you may have some future ideas, things that you're thinking about that maybe they're a little pie in the sky, those kooky ideas, things that you could sell, like socks at Sock Stars, or transportation at Sunshine Wheels, or food, or the list goes on and on. So again, as I said, this is a fun exercise. It is one of your homework assignments, and you can see from this worksheet, you'll have the opportunity to inventory and brainstorm in both of those categories. So those things you currently have by way of products and services, and those things that are potential future opportunities. And if I could just do another one of our Let's Talk About It. Is there anybody that wants to share just an interesting product or program or service that you currently have, or maybe that falls into that list of kooky ideas? And if you do, feel free to type in the chat box or raise your virtual hand. And of course, as we say, we like those that are mission aligned best, those that would help you further your mission, but feel free to share if you've got something. Anybody, Josephine, anything in the chat box or any virtual hands raised?
Sherry has a crazy idea, she says.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sitting here and it's hard to even listen because I want to go develop a business plan right now because I got the kooky idea. So we run a nonprofit for families in need, and we have tons of clothing that comes to us that we just have no use for because it's, out of style or stained or whatever. We also have a ton of moms who have babies who have no way to get a job because they have no childcare. So how about we mix it all together? We give them a sewing machine, the used fabric. We have them make bags that you could use to put gifts in. So instead of buying paper bags to give at holidays or whatever, you give a giving bag, which is sewn and made from recycled material, repurposed, and labor is these single moms that have no other way to go work.
Love
and we
it.
sell them for it. So my big question, if I get a one-on-one consulting gig with you, is how do we get a grant to pay them? Because we have no paid staff. We're a 100% volunteer run organization, but we'd have to have them be paid. So that's
Love
but
the
anyway.
kooky idea. It's not so kooky. And we love that your creative juices are flowing. We're not going to answer your question in terms of, how we might help you bring that to fruition. But yes, hold that thought because you will participate in our mini Zoom consulting sessions after this webinar.
Great.
Anybody else have an
Mike.
idea?
Yes, Jennifer with Resilient Retreat has something she'd love to share.
Jennifer.
Hey there, thanks so much. So we have 84 acres of property out east on Fruitville Road here in Sarasota, on which we're building a retreat center that'll sleep about 30 people. And we also have like a lovely meditation pond and things like that. We use the property primarily to provide services to survivors of trauma and helping professionals. But we have the idea, not unlike the Manatee Performing Arts Center, I think it was, yeah, to rent the space when we're not utilizing it for programming to folks who might want to have a wedding there or a corporate retreat or something like that. So my biggest, and we've already incorporated a separate organization called Thrive Events, but the tax implications are the biggest. I don't want to get us in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest challenge.
Great idea, number one. Number two, I think your challenge is to look for opportunities to make it mission aligned.
Mm-hmm.
So are there ways to train and employ your own clients who currently are part of the Resilient Retreat Center as part of that earned income venture or social enterprise? Again, the more you can make it mission aligned, the less likely you are to have the tax implications as part of that. So thank you for sharing that. To be continued. And
thanks.
We're going to continue since we've still got a fair amount to cover. So as we look to sort of refining ideas that you have, possibilities that you have, we want to introduce a tool, a way for you to think about that. We call it our margin and mission matrix. Many of you may have seen this before if you've been part of our other initiatives like AMT. But the goal for, again, to our way of thinking, and for purposes of this initiative, the goal should be for you to maximize margin and mission whenever possible. So what is a tool that you can use to look at your various earned income opportunities? So this matrix is a helpful tool. It's simple. In that upper right quadrant where you see the smiley face, we call high margin, high mission. In the bottom left quadrant is the quadrant we would prefer you not be in, is low mission, low margin, not doing much for your organization. Top left quadrant, where many of you will have programs, products, and services, are in that high mission, low margin quadrant with the heart. And then in the bottom right quadrant, where that dollar sign is, those low mission, high margin activities that we were just talking about, like, you may have a rental facility that's generating or could generate revenue, but maybe you can't figure out a way to have it generate mission. So as you're thinking about all your various earned income possibilities, you're going to want to put them into or categorize them into one of these quadrants on the matrix. And sometimes it won't be as neat and clean as you would like it to be, but remember, it's a continuum. So you may have some of your various programs and services that fall, more in the middle, more to the right, the left, the top, or the bottom, and that's okay. I will say, for example, if you see that a lot of your programs, products, and services fall into that heart quadrant, the high mission, low margin, it's a good opportunity for you to think about how can you move them into the high margin, high mission quadrant. Those are things that you can think about, you can brainstorm, and you can strategize. So again, this matrix is a simple tool that you can use in your organization to help you think about, even make decisions as it relates to earned income. This will be part of your homework. We have a worksheet that has this on it. And ultimately, we urge you, once you get through the homework, make copies of this, keep it close by, give it to your team, whoever that is, staff, leadership, board, because you will all find it to be tremendously helpful. Okay, so that is our matrix. Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
There was just a question in the chat box that margin means revenue. And in this case, on that sheet, yes, it's how much revenue is coming in. So let's just say you did the worksheet and everything is kind of mapped out on that margin mission matrix. Then the next thing is to look at the criteria for assessing an earned income opportunity. So is there market need and demand? Do you think people even want it out there? Are you getting calls about it? Maybe if it's something that you're thinking of doing. Do customers have any money to buy it? So when you think about your key customers and whatever that product is, do people have the dollars to buy it, whether it's an agency or an individual? Is there operational ease? So is this going to take 35 staff to get off the ground? Is it going to, is it operationally difficult to pull off? Or is it, can you do it in a shorter amount of time? Speed to market is another one. Is this something you could maybe get off the ground in 6 months? Or is this going to take 3 years to actually launch because of the complicated nature of it? And this is more of a gut feeling in the beginning. Is there margin contribution and is there mission contribution? So margin, until you dive into the business plan and think through the budget, it's difficult to say, but what do you think? If you're seeing need and demand and if the customers have the money to buy it, maybe you can guess that there'll be a pretty good margin contribution. So this is just another screen that we'll take your organizations through, and we can talk about this on our one-on-one call. The next, and think about this, that you've taken one of your ideas and we want you to run one of your ideas through the next few slides. So do a SWOT analysis on the idea. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? So think about whatever that idea might be. There's some really good strengths. And then, we're worried about the weaknesses and the threats as we move forward. And what we try to do on the next work, on that same worksheet, is think about, maybe one more, Mike, is think about the risks. So if you think about the weaknesses and the threats, those are the risks that you have moving forward with whatever that idea might be. So what are those greatest risks? And in the business plan or in your thinking, how can you mitigate them? How can you think through, if that's the risk, how are we going to handle it? Whether it's a staffing issue or a marketing, a sales issue, or whatever the issue might be, how are we going to handle that? How can we mitigate that? So on that same worksheet, you'll have a SWOT analysis, and how would you mitigate at least one of those risks down below?
You also want to think about, regardless of what your earned income possibilities or activities are, who are your competitors? And competition is an interesting thing because there are the likely and obvious suspects, and then sometimes there are those who are the unlikely and less obvious ones. Just to go back to, for example, I think it was the resilient retreat example of utilizing your campus and renting it out, while there are certainly some nonprofit competitors, other nonprofit organizations that do have space that they rent out, there's also for-profits, and really understanding, what those entities are. Again, depending on what your earned income venture is, there might be government agencies that are competitors, and there could be a number of others. But the key here is to really force yourself to think about the landscape that is out there, and both in terms of who the likely and the unlikely suspects are. Let's say you have a retail operation of some sort, a store. If you were a museum with a store, remember your competitors are not just other museum stores or gift shops. It's also sort of the gamut of other retail entities, both brick and mortar and online. So understanding who those organizations are, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and how you might be able to offer something that is even better. So this is yet another good exercise that you will have and can apply to sort of one of these ideas that bubbles to the surface as part of your homework assignment. Another opportunity for thinking and some creative brainstorming is this idea of who or where may you turn to help fund the startup or expansion of an earned income venture. And it could be a variety of different individuals or organizations that you turn to. It could be funders, philanthropic organizations. It could be investors. Now, in this particular case, we typically would say an investor in a nonprofit social enterprise or earned income venture would likely be a mission impact investor. In other words, they're investing to see you grow your mission and not for them to personally see a financial return, like you might see in a for-profit venture. Donors, crowdfunding sources. So, we've all seen various organizations and individuals use crowdfunding to generate startup capital or growth capital. So it could be applied to an earned income venture. And then, of course, there are likely other ideas. I think the key here is that we really encourage you to think about is that it's never too early. Let me say that again. It's never too early to start thinking about who could fund your earned income venture. And even in these very early stages, we encourage you to begin thinking about that. You might have some ideas for those that are obvious, and you might not. But bring those folks in early, bring them along with you, and don't wait until you're ready to make an ask, to ask them for a check to start sharing with them and asking them to engage. So again, you'll have an opportunity to give this some thought, and it will be another part of your homework. Does anybody have a sort of possibility that you want to share in the chat box, or certainly raise your virtual hand, that would be an interesting or a different way of generating startup or growth capital than the ones I shared? Anybody? Josephine, anything in the chat box?
Not for that. No, not yet. I think
Any
there's
virtual hands? No. Well, let me just share one way, and this is more of a tease than it is anything else. Has anybody ever heard of a fast pitch? So much like Shark Tank, and we are Shark Tank aficionados, we have what we call our own fast pitch, where we encourage nonprofit organizations that are looking to raise startup or growth capital to go through a Shark Tank type process. a friendlier version, a kinder version, albeit one that is entrepreneurial and brings folks together. So that's startup and expansion. Another important area for you to think about when it comes to an earned income venture is partnerships. So we like to think about it in terms of primary and secondary. Are there partners that are essential for success? And are there partners that would be nice to have, but not need to have? What's interesting about partnerships is, and I think, we've all been there perhaps at one stage or another, that, partnership is kind of the P word. Sometimes in the nonprofit sector, we try to avoid partnerships, either because we think we can do it alone or because we're worried about, the competitive factor. We're in a community where everybody's vying for, the same funding, philanthropic funding from donors and so forth. So we worry about that. But the reality is that when you open your minds to think about partnerships, it can actually make your earned income venture more successful and more viable. And here's another thought. When you talk about competitors, sometimes competitors can become your partners. So think about that. And again, you'll have the opportunity to focus on this as part of your homework. So I'm going to turn it back over to Larry as we're getting ready to sort of wrap this session up. So Larry, up to you.
So what do you do with all this information? Where do you go from here? Where do you take your earned income idea? So what we'd like you to think about, and we'll introduce this in our Labinar number 3, but think about these preparedness factors. So leadership, do you have a committed board and staff? Willingness, a strong desire and enthusiasm to move forward. Are you ready? Are you prepared to take action? Do you have the capacity, available resources, and culture? Do you have an entrepreneurial kind of spirit and open to change in your organization? So we'll be talking more about these during our 3rd Labinar and help you kind of look internally at yourself at that time. So what's next? Develop a business plan. It's really critical for your success. And as Mike said, our 4th Labinar will focus on business plan, the components of a business plan. So Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. So that just might happen if you don't do a business plan and you don't stay focused. So let's talk about some next steps. So where do we go from here? So you have your worksheets. And as I said just a few minutes ago, worksheets, 3 through 6, think about that one idea and take that one idea through it. You don't have to do all your ideas through the SWOT analysis and the rest. Just take your one idea. So get together as a team, not just an individual, the ED doing this, but pull a couple people together. If a board member can get involved, have a good discussion and work through these worksheets together. So we want you to join us. Labinar number 2 is on Wednesday, December 8th, same time, 10 to 11:30. We want you to go to that next level. So what are some criteria for joining us in Labinar number 2? Well, you had to be here and you're all here. So you check off that first criteria, you made it. Complete and submit a survey, which you'll get, and you'll get your worksheets, all of which will come tomorrow to you in an email. So you don't have to try to find them now or worry about them now. You'll get them all tomorrow. And we want those worksheets, as it mentions, prior to our one-on-one consulting sessions with you. So we'll set those up. Mike or I will send you, whoever signed up from your organization, a doodle poll. You'll choose a time and we'll set that up on our calendars. We just need to see the worksheets prior to that day that we have that one-on-one with you.
And keep in mind, that's just a 30-minute Zoom. So it's a half hour. It's not a huge time commitment.
It's a good time for you to get to know us, for us to get to know you, to think about your ideas. And then you'll also get a registration link. And going into Labinar 2, we need 3 team members from your organization. So we want the ED or the CEO, whoever that leader is, we want a board member, and we want a staff member or somebody else inside your organization. If you have a very small staff, it might be another volunteer. But we need a team to represent your organization. It has to include the leader and a board member and one other individual. So think about that. And we have learned over time, over the years that we have done this, that you need to have these people involved. The board member, it's really important to have them there because you need an advocate at the board level if you move forward with earned income. So tomorrow, you'll get a link to the recorded session if you need to show it to somebody else. You'll get the PowerPoint slide deck, you'll get the follow-up survey, and you'll get a link to the worksheets. All of that will be in one email to you. Following that, Mike and I will send you a link to our doodle poll so we can all sign up for a one-on-one. And then you'll also get an e-invitation to register for Labinar number 2. Okay. Our third Labinar is on Wednesday, January 12th. So mark that on your calendar if it's not already there. Our fourth one is on February 9th. Both of those are 10 to 11:30. So why don't we open it up, Mike? Just to wrap it up, are there any final questions? We just threw a lot of information at you, answered some really good questions. We maybe didn't get to all your questions, but do you have any right now that are so burning that you want to ask?
Can I just ask really quick,
Sure.
Jessica, do you want all 3 members of our organization at every Labinar, or is that just the next session? Or would you like it to be the same members that attend?
Great
The final
question. So we need that leader of the organization and a board member and somebody else at every single Labinar. You know, you only have one leader, so that person would need to be at all 4. You know, sometimes the board members have to switch out because you can't get a board member to commit for all 4 sessions. So it might be a different board member. Having consistency is good though. So if you can get them to commit to all 4, it's all the better for you. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Larry, there's a question in the chat. If one of our team members could not attend today, can he move forward with us?
Yes. Yes. So it's just, again, going into Labinar 2, bring as many people. We want at least 3. You can bring 5 if you want, but we need at least 3 with, again, you as the leader, a board member, and somebody else, whether you have another staff member or a volunteer, depending on the size of your agency. Some organizations bring 8 people to every lab. So just think about it. Try to recruit as many. Think about if you have more people inside your organization participating in this and learning and sharing, all the better for you.
Yeah, and we've learned over time that it's just a great way to unite your team, to give another cause for folks to rally around another common common cause, I guess, to help you become a more thrivable organization.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
And as we said earlier, it gives you the time and the space to do that.
Jennifer.
Other questions? Yeah, Craig. Or Greg.
Hi, Mike and Larry. So I have another board meeting coming up, and I'm sure generate quite a bit of interest from those that, and we've had good turnout so far, but I want to include more. Where can we go to have them view all of the prior sessions prior to the next Labinar?
So you'll get a link tomorrow, Craig, which will have the recording for this Labinar. It will have a copy of the PowerPoint handouts. It will also have all the worksheets. So you can share that link with them and they can go in and take a look at the recordings. And that link will have all of the Labinars eventually and all the recordings on it. So if they can only come to Labinar number 4, they can go back and look at 1, 2, and 3 in the recordings if they're attending for their first time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Great, awesome. Any other questions?
I think there was one in the chat box. Did I see from Jennifer?
Yeah, I popped it. I think Joe maybe answered me. So I think we're okay. Thank you though.
Other questions? All right, we're going to give you 2 minutes of extra time today. You know, the gift of time, as we say. So we are so happy all of you joined us today, are considering earned income for your agency or growing it, depending on. And we hope you register for Labinar number 2. And thanks for all joining, and thanks for your absolutely great questions today. Mike, any parting comments?
No, thank you all. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.